People who lied in their resume and actually got the job they were unqualified for. What ended up happening? My uncle did this. Showed up for a mass interview. They said they would call people they wanted after. He didn't get a call, but found out where people were supposed to go the first day. He just showed up. I think when he was asked, he just told them that he had been told to come, even though his name wasn't on the list. He retired from that company about 45 years later. My boss hired someone that called the store and said, "I would like to confirm my interview is on this date." My coworker had never actually submitted an application or resume. My boss just assumed it got misplaced. LOL bro, what? This is incredible, ha, mad props to him. This is amazing. Act like you belong. It'll get you far. When my dad first arrived as an immigrant, he took an ESL class which among other things coached students on how to get a job. The teacher literally got up there and said, "Here's how you get a job in America, lie." So my dad lies and told a construction crew he could drive a forklift. The first day, they asked him to get on the forklift. My dad said, "Oh, I only know how to use a different model of forklift." So they taught him how to drive the forklift, and he worked there for 20 years. My dad said, "Oh, I only know how to use a different model of forklift." Very clever of him. This is the move. I worked in film and video productions for a few years. It works with everything. Oh, sure, I'm great with recording audio. Show up on set and get handed a digital audio recorder. I've actually only ever done analog audio. But if you show me where the buttons are, I can figure it out. Then get chummy on set and ask other people just enough technical details to bullshit to the position you want to be in on the next job. Not me, but my dad when he was drafted for World War II. They asked if he could touch type, he said yes. I don't think he had even seen a typewriter. But they put him in intelligence because of his answer and no one ever questioned his typing skills. That's brilliant. It gets better. Once he got out and started looking for work, he was asked if he could drive. He said yes. They gave him the job and his brother had to teach him to drive in a borrowed car before his first day. Lies get you places, advice taken. I worked on an assembly line making oil field tools, told them I had oil field experience. Got sent to an offshore oil rig a few months later. Turns out you're just picking up heavy shit and getting picked on for the first few months anyways. That's one of those jobs that I've always romanticized. Just chilling out there for a few days? Weeks? At a time. Did you enjoy it? Well, I wanted to be a photographer, but didn't have any people I could shoot. I was in a new town, knew nobody, and had zero experience. So I put out ads for free engagement photos from a professional photographer who was switching fields. I figured, what could the harm be if it was free? If they hated the photos, they could just pay someone for a real session. So I actually get a couple to respond. I show up to the shoot, and they're both drop dead gorgeous. And I realize I'll never get another chance like this again. So I shot everything. I think in a 2-hour shoot, I ended up with something like 12,000 photos on 6 SD cards. I was so concerned about focus, that I would literally put the camera on burst mode, and shoot off like 30 photos as I manually turned the focus ring through its full arc so that at least one of them would be in focus. I was shooting from in the ocean, climbing cliffs, full sniper mode in the sand. I was relentless. Then I spent 3 straight weeks editing for like 12 hours a day, basically using these photos to teach myself Lightroom and Photoshop. I delivered them 400 finished photos, and lo and behold, they loved them. I put those up on my website, was off to the races, and now 8 years later it's my career and I've done about 800 to 900 weddings. You literally brute forced your way into taking quality photos. If you take a few thousand then at least a few have to be impressive. Glad it worked out for you either way. My very first job in finance was as a data entry clerk for a mortgage lender. They asked if I could type 70+ WPM, I lied and said I could. I really could type about 25 WPM. When I got the offer, I spent every day till my hire date practicing the shit out of my typing speed. Got up to about 50 WPM, which was enough to overlook my first 2 weeks of the job. By the time I got promoted to underwriting a year later, could easily type 80 plus WPM, and knew 10 key by touch. Nothing builds skill like practice and panic. AKA PP. Now I know that I'm supposed to lead by example and all that, but I'm not shoving that aside like it don't mean anything. I know it's important, I honestly do, but we're talking about practice. We're talking about practice, man. Not a game? I got away with it. I was desperate for work after grad school, and lied about my skills in Salesforce, CRM so for the win air, when asked about it at the interview. I'd never even heard of it before. I claimed I've used it plenty, and the interviewer kept asking one question after another about Salesforce, and I was so desperate, and also so embarrassed about lying, that my only choice was to lie even further to cover up the original lies. So by the end of the interview, I had dug myself into a hole of lies so deep, the only way I got out of it was because my new manager has obviously never used Salesforce herself either. So I get the job, and I'm thrown headfirst into becoming the team's new Salesforce wizard. Thankfully it was pretty easy to learn, and since I used it every day / all day long, I've become pretty skilled at it in a few weeks. It's now the most honest part of my resume. TBF, unless you're in the dev side, Salesforce couldn't be more user-intuitive. If you've used Facebook, you've used Salesforce. I got an insultingly small raise for speaking a second language, and since none of my bosses spoke Spanish, they never figured out that my skill level was comparable to that of a toddler. All of our Hispanic customers found it adorable. I didn't get a raise, but when I was interviewing to work at a bookstore they asked if I spoke a second language. I thought it would make them more likely to hire me, and I had studied Russian in college, so I said I did and ended up with a label on my name tag that said I spoke Russian. The rest of the time I worked there, I lived in fear of the day an actual Russian speaker needed help with anything. Well, you can always tell your colleague that the actual Russian speaker were not very fluent. College buddy left after 4 years or so. Couple years later we are hanging out and he is a energy commodity analyst. WTF? Lied and said he had a mathematics degree. They never checked, he did well. Couple years later he gets a huge promotion to switch to another company. Tells the truth that time. They hire on the condition he finishes his degree. They got busy, told him to drop out. He is now a C-level executive of a smaller energy logistics company. This is why I lie. Could have just as easily ended badly for him. I don't recommend it. I had an employee lie about a degree. 4 years of college but didn't finish. Background check caught it, nearly cost him the job. I fought for him with HR for about a week and got him the job. Don't lie. It wasn't on my resume, per se. But when I was in my early 20s, 55 now, I was working for a company doing basically video editing. They needed someone in the IT department, and the manager knew I had a home PC and asked me if I knew anything about mainframes. I lied, said I did, and he transferred me. He figured out pretty quickly that I was full of shit, decided I was still the best candidate, rolled up his sleeves and taught the shit out of me. Over 30 years later, he's still the best boss I ever had, taught me how to be a husband and a father, taught me how to manage projects large and small and how to manage teams large and small. Still one of my best friends, considers me a second son and I certainly consider him my second father, and I've had an IT career ever since. Been the director of IT for 3 separate companies, plus owned my own technical consulting firm, etc. So, that little lie worked out pretty good, I think. As someone about to enter the professional world, this gives hope that I'll find a mentor like this. Not me, but I remember seeing someone who clearly did. I got hired as a contractor for a major brand pretty much everyone has heard of. They had a lean fiscal year and laid off a large portion of their front office people. Me and Anther person were hired to help fill in some holes left by the people let go. On our first day we were being shown some basic tasks and how to work with the database. I had a notebook with me and was taking some notes and asking a lot of questions. The other person looked like they saw a ghost. By the time we came back from lunch the other person miraculously got a better job offer and left never to return.